please do not support the upcoming Hogwarts Legacy game. Friends, colleagues, cohorts, the whole lot of you, I'm asking you very sincerely, please do not stream it. Don't make YouTube videos about it, don't buy it, and don't bloody pre-order it. The reason being is that you may not be aware that by supporting this title, you are essentially aligning yourself with some really heinous transphobic values. J.K. Rowling, aka Joanne, has made it extremely clear that they see the success of this title as being vindication of their transphobic views. That, by this title doing well, that means that they were correct. And honestly, you just have to look on the Steam forums to see the kind of people that are cheering for this game. Please don't be among them. If you weren't aware of all this, I'll do a longer video after this to explain a bit more of the nuances, but I just had to say, please don't support this game.
As the release of Hogwarts Legacy draws closer and closer, those of us that still participate in social media are seeing many videos, tweets, and gaming articles regarding not only the game, but rather the series creators' personal beliefs when it comes to LGBTQ rights and individuals. While there are some of us that are aware of why there is this outcry, it seems like there are many that are conflating talking points that they heard somewhere else rather than actually looking into what caused this massive outcry around both Hogwarts Legacy and Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. So let's take a closer look together, without any bias, as to what started this entire controversy. For those unfamiliar, J.K. Rowling is widely renowned as one of the greatest minds in modern fantasy literature, and gained acclaim when the first Harry Potter entry was released back in 1997. As the world developed and technology became a frontrunner in promotion and personal expression, like many other celebrities, J.K. Rowling took to the internet with her own website, blog, and eventually Twitter. On June 6, 2020, Rowling tweeted an op-ed piece that discussed people who menstruate, apparently taking issue with the fact that the story did not include the word women when referring to those that menstruate. The article in question was an opinion piece on devx.com entitled Creating a More Equal Post-COVID-19 World for People Who Menstruate, wherein a trio of authors discussed how the effects of the pandemic lockdown had been negatively affecting girls, women, and gender non-binary persons' access to feminine hygiene products, with a more specific focus on non-Western communities that do not have access to such products nor public health education. The author took a jab at the use or lack of use of the word women when describing people who menstruate, tweeting, quote, "People who menstruate? I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Woman, wumpund, woman." The tweet, which is still up on her account, garnered a fair amount of backlash, with the louder voices in the Harry Potter community labeling the author as phobic, misinformed, and deluded. Despite this, she defended her views and explained further in 3 more tweets. Quote, "If sex isn't real, then there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. The idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as a woman, i.e. to male violence, hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences is nonsense. I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it's hateful to say so." Despite J.K. Rowling having a very strong standing within that community, her take was still seen negatively and she was labeled as a TERF, a trans exclusionary radical feminist. The backlash had become so intense that the author decided to pen a lengthy post on her personal blog detailing her views on June 10th, 2020. This isn't an easy piece to write for reasons that will shortly become clear, but I know it's time to explain myself on an issue surrounded by toxicity. I write this without any desire to add to that toxicity. For people who don't know, last December I tweeted my support for Maya Forstater, a tax specialist who'd lost her job for what were deemed transphobic tweets. She took her case to an employment tribunal, asking the judge to rule on whether a philosophical belief that sex is determined by biology is protected by law. Judge Taylor ruled that it wasn't. My interest in trans issues predated Maya's case by almost 2 years, during which I followed the debate around the concept of gender identity closely. I've met trans people and read sundry books, blogs and articles by trans people, gender specialists, intersex people, psychologists, safeguarding experts, social workers, and doctors, and follow the discourse online in a traditional media. On one level, my interest in the issue has been professional, because I'm writing a crime series set in the present day, and my fictional female detective is of an age to be interested in and affected by these issues herself. But on another, it's intensely personal, as I'm about to explain. All the time I've been researching and learning, accusations and threats from trans activists have been bubbling in my Twitter timeline. This was initially triggered by a like. When I started taking an interest in gender identity and transgender matters, I began screenshotting comments that interested me as a way of reminding myself what I might want to research later. On one occasion, I absent-mindedly liked instead of screenshotting. That single like was deemed evidence of wrongthink, and a persistent low level of harassment began. Months later, I compounded my accidental like crime by following Magdalene Burns on Twitter. Magdalene was an immensely brave young feminist and lesbian who was dying of an aggressive brain tumor. I followed her because I wanted to contact her directly, which I succeeded in doing. However, as Magdalene was a great believer in the importance of biological sex and didn't believe lesbians should be called bigots for not dating trans women with penises, dots were joined in the heads of Twitter trans activists, and the level of social media abuse increased. I mention all this only to explain that I knew perfectly well what was going to happen when I supported Maya. I must have been on my 4th or 5th cancellation by then. I expected the threats of violence, to be told I was literally killing trans people with my hate, to be called a cunt and bitch, and of course, for my books to be burned, although one particularly abusive man told me he'd composted them. What I didn't expect in the aftermath of my cancellation was the avalanche of emails and letters that came showering down upon me, the overwhelming majority of which were positive, grateful, and supportive. They came from a cross-section of kind, empathetic, and intelligent people, some of them working in fields dealing with gender dysphoria and trans people, who are all deeply concerned about the socio-political concept as influencing politics, medical practices, and safeguarding. They're worried about the dangers to young people, gay people, and the erosion of women's and girls' rights. Above all, they're worried about a climate of fear that serves nobody, least of all trans youth, well. I'd stepped back from Twitter for many months before and after tweeting support for Maya because I knew I was doing nothing good for my mental health. I only returned because I wanted to share a free children's book during the pandemic. Immediately, activists who clearly believed themselves to be good, kind, and progressive people swarmed back into my timeline, assuming a right to police my speech, accuse me of hatred, call me misogynistic slurs, and above all, as every woman involved in this debate will know, TERF. The post goes into more detail about reasons why she stands against this movement of the ideology, 5 specifically that outline her reasons to support the trans community, women, truth, and speech. The biggest reasons she often circles back to are 1. The increasing push of transgender ideology on young, adolescent, and prepubescent girls, of whom are already very insecure and impressionable, how the overwhelming of trans ideology and rights are overriding and in some instances replacing women's rights. I would recommend checking out the post, as regardless of where you stand on the issue and whether or not you agree with her, it is very well written and puts a lot of her side into perspective. Since this is the major inciting tweet, Rowling has not backed down from her beliefs. In fact, her Twitter account has more or less become a record of her strong stance on the issue and has not shied away from sharing what she believes to be important articles and views. Despite all these, for the small part of the community she could not support, the backlash did not relent. In fact, it carried over directly to Hollywood and its related industries. The stars of the Harry Potter films did not shy away from the topic, with Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter himself, releasing an official statement on June 8th via the Trevor Report, a counseling, support, and advocacy group geared towards the LGBTQ community. I realize that certain press outlets will probably want to paint this as an infighting between J.K. Rowling and myself, but that is really not what this is about, nor is it what's important right now. While Joe is unquestionably responsible for the course my life has taken, as someone who has been honored to work with and continues to contribute to the Trevor Project for the last decade, and just as a human being, I feel compelled to say something at this moment. Transgender women are women. Any statement to the contrary erases the identity and dignity of transgender people and goes against all advice given by professional healthcare associations who have far more experience on the subject than either Joe or I. It's clear that we need need to do more to support transgender and non-binary people, not invalidate their identities, and not cause them further harm. I'm still learning how to be a better ally. To all the people who now feel that their experience of the books has been tarnished or diminished, I'm deeply sorry for the pain these comments have caused you. I really hope that you don't entirely lose what was valuable in these stories to you. If the books taught you that love is the strongest force in the universe, capable of overcoming anything, if they taught you that strength is found in diversity, and that dogmatic ideas of pureness lead to the oppression of vulnerable groups, if you believe that a particular character is trans, non-binary, or gender fluid, or that they are gay or bisexual, if you found anything in these stories that resonated with you and helped you at any time in your life, then that is between you and the book that you read, and it is sacred. On June 10th, Emma Watson, who played Hermione Granger, also spoke out against Rowling. Quote, "Trans people are who they say they are and deserve to live their lives without being constantly questioned or told they aren't who they say they are. I want my trans followers to know that I and so many other people around the world see you, respect you, and love you for who you are." The last of the main trio, Rupert Grint, who portrayed Ron Weasley, issued a statement in an interview via the UK's Sunday Times on June 12th, stating in short, "I firmly stand with the trans community and echo the sentiments expressed by many of my peers. Trans women are women, trans men are men. We should all be entitled to live with love and without judgment." In addition, Bonnie Wright, who played Ginny Weasley, and Eddie Raymond of the Fantastic Beasts series also expressed views against the creator via Twitter. Warner Brothers, who owns the media distribution rights for the Harry Potter franchise, also released a statement on June 10th. "The events of the last several weeks have firmed our resolve as a company to confront difficult societal issues. Warner Bros.' position on inclusiveness is well established, and fostering a diverse and inclusive culture has never been more important to our company and to our audiences around the world. We deeply value our work of storytellers who give so much of themselves in sharing their creations with all of us. We recognize our responsibility to foster empathy and advocate understanding of all communities and all people, particularly those we work with and those we reach through our content." Many other celebrities have hopped on this wagon, as generally any smearing of Rowling generates good online traction. Harry Potter franchise stars have come out in support of Rowling, more specifically that they are thankful for how her novels brought them a lot of professional success and that she is entitled to her own beliefs. Hogwarts Legacy has been in development for quite some time. Footage accidentally leaked in 2018, and the game was officially announced at a PlayStation 5 event in late 2020. The game is being developed by Avalanche Studio, who had been most famous for their work on Disney Infinity games prior to being bought by Warner Brothers in 2017. That same year, Warner Brothers established a new publishing label named Portkey Games, which was dedicated to managing the Wizarding World license. Hogwarts Legacy is set in the 1890s and follows a student starting at Hogwarts in their 5th year. As the players starting at the school later than other students, a wizard's field guide is given by the Ministry of Magic. Completing sections of this guide through exploration provides additional information and XP. Players also hold the key to an ancient secret that threatens to tear the Wizarding World apart, is capable of manipulating a mysterious ancient magic, and will need help to uncover why this forgotten magic has suddenly made a resurgence and the ones that are simultaneously trying to harness it. In-game, you are able to interact with characters previously seen within the Wizarding World franchise, while also being introduced to new, previously unheard of figures. With the J.K. Rowling controversy brewing partway through production of the game, Warner Brothers, on top of their original 2020 statement, also voiced support for the production of Hogwarts Legacy, clarifying that the author does not have any hand in the game. Portkey Games also came out once again in 2022 to reaffirm WB's stance. Though the game also does not feature any of the characters of the movies or novels, Rowling will still be gaining royalties off the product regardless. Gaming news sites have chimed into this as well, with sites like Kotaku and GameSpot hopping onto the outrage whenever they can and continuously re-promoting old articles with a significant bias against J.K. Rowling. Either way, this hasn't stopped the online community from reaching to far ends to dishearten gamers from buying the game. The Harry Potter community over on Reddit announced late last year that they would be banning any users that play the game. Gaming forum Red Set Era also announced in January 2023 that they would be suspending any talk of the game after the Steam fiasco allowed users to add hashtags like Genocide Simulator and Suicide Simulator to the game's page. Additionally, many gaming and LGBTQ activists have been vocal in stating that anyone who plays, purchases, or supports Hogwarts Legacy in any capacity is transphobic and perpetuates violence against the same community. What is ironic in all this is that despite the very loud outcry, when the collectors and special editions of Hogwarts Legacy became available, pre-orders sold out almost immediately, and an equally large large group began to push back, with people either confirming pre-orders or simply choosing to purchase the game in rebuttal. Furthermore, at the start of this year, it was reported that behind a controller, Hogwarts Legacy was the most wish-listed game on Amazon in the US and UK for the PlayStation 5. Gamers and gaming news websites aren't the only ones following this boycott trend. At the start of the year, Limited Run Games, a company which publishes physical copies of games, fired their community manager the same day a trans individual made a very public accusation against the company for employing someone who was excited about Hogwarts Legacy, amongst other things. Sebastian Croft, who was cast as a voice in the game, came out to make a statement that he had joined the project before Rowling's inciting tweet, and to state that he believes trans women are women and trans men are men, as backlash against the voice actors has begun to grow as well. An individual in Toronto went so far as to remove Rowling's name from covers of the Harry Potter books, claiming it would help trans individuals cope better with the internal struggle of liking a series created against someone who is deemed transphobic. Everything covered in this video has been related to what jump-started the controversy. J.K. Rowling has stood by her statements and her beliefs, with much of her Twitter account becoming either shares of articles supporting her beliefs or poking the small minority that are stopping at nothing to tarnish her name. All of this seems to come to a head with Hogwarts Legacy, a game that Rowling will only earn royalties on at the end of the day and has no direct hand in the production of. Regardless of her beliefs or whether you agree with her or not, there's an entire team of individuals behind productions like these games that get their livelihood from its success. Controversies like this will undoubtedly follow some of these designers, programmers, marketers, and writers, as we are in an era where the digital sphere perfectly encapsulates a single person's entire online history and associations. When you factor in that some of those individuals are of the LGBTQ lifestyle, there's an even larger internal conflict that arises that now you have people of the same side infighting over a product that won't really impact LGBTQ rights at the end of the day. All of Rowling's previous work with the LGBT community seems to be completely forgotten amongst all of this. For the one area she opposes, she has decades of very vocal and open support for the community. It seems disheartening to realize that a small disagreement can undo an entire individual's positive contributions to a society. If we take a look at the crowd that has been vocal in purchasing Hogwarts Legacy as a rebuttal, their argument also seems a little offhand, as the game is being published and distributed by Warner Brothers, a company that has been under the spotlight as of late for their disastrous handling of the DCU, which includes firing fan favorite Henry Cavill but keeping a sexual predator like Ezra Miller on the payroll. This seems like a big contradiction of beliefs. At the end of the day, you aren't necessarily phobic for wanting to play Hogwarts Legacy, and you aren't necessarily sticking it to anyone by playing Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy comes out on February 10th for the PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. What is your take on the controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy and J.K. Rowling? Will you be playing Hogwarts Legacy? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this commentary, please wave your wands over those like and subscribe buttons. Until next time, stay frosty, friends.